I'm Jordan Valdina. I'm a registered architect and a professional engineer. This is the Architecture Show. Let's take a walk.
Why hire an architect? Well, yeah, hopefully they do it better, right? Somebody's not licensed. But an important part of the licensed part is actually can be said pretty simply, and it corresponds to something pretty accurate, found in various realms in human nature. Very simply, they have something to lose more than somebody who's not licensed. Namely, their license.
He was just in heaven, man.
That's the licensed aspect. So they're going to apply a greater level of care to all the considerations, the integration, the structural, the life safety, not just, hey, I'm a hip designer. In general, everything's in general. So hedging your bets, big time. Were all these buildings designed by an architect? Almost definitely. One would have needed to have signed off on them anyway, even if there was a designer. This is what they do. Pretty much that simple.
But does that mean you will like their design sense more? No, not necessarily. But as mentioned in the regular episode, it's a question of communicating what you want and a good architect translating it. It's also a question of interviewing and finding ones you like. And that part's on you. But they're out there waiting for you, and you're waiting for them if you have a real architecture project. An architect also, generally speaking, is going to integrate cost considerations like they matter. More so than somebody, almost by definition, in character, than somebody who wants to cut to the chase and say, hey, I'm a designer, I don't need to be licensed. It almost implies a level of kind of denial of what it takes. Not necessarily. Look, Frank Lloyd Wright was an unlicensed professional. He's not the rule. He's the exception. But then, what about this? Oh, he economized all right. Oh, those architects should have figured out how to make it great, right? Not necessarily. All buildings are a complex, a co-relationship between the architect and the developer or the owner, etc. So there are responsibilities on the client side too that kind of relate to listening and having a good relationship. That's why finding the right fit is just essential. And then there's something that more gonna put on the owner side, and that's that not unique to owners. It's common to kind of human character, and that is the psychology of human expression through negation. It's fundamental to how we form our character. You see it in 2-year-olds, and it actually continues with us for life. And it's I don't have to. I can do it my way, etc. So. Sometimes that drives decisions that actually don't benefit us. Like, I don't want to get you Mr. Qualified or Mrs. Qualified Architect. Who do you think you are, right? You think you're so great or whatever. I want somebody who's just, who I just want. And again, sometimes that can work, sometimes. Like in other areas of life, though, sometimes it's you shooting yourself in the foot and having the reward of being able to say, yeah, but I shot myself in my foot my way. And usually at some point we think better of that. It just doesn't always have the best results. That's all. And there's another reason that is very simply that licensed design professionals are required to take batteries of tests, required to have a certain degree, agreed upon by boards of people, referred to, references in favor of their licensure by other fellow professionals. It's all quality control stuff, and then required to have continuing education. And an unlicensed professional is not required to do that. Might they be learning and studying more anyway? Absolutely. Might not they be learning and studying more? Yes. It's less of a known quantity is all. So the licensed professional, the registered architect, are at least getting that level of effort and successful performance in those realms. Again, it's not an absolute assurance, but it is an assurance. So, why not hire an architect? Well, you could save some money, perhaps, would be one thinking. By the way, these visuals are not shown to be one way or the other. They're just kind of buildings, background, showing some buildings. Not like, hey, why'd you show those buildings? No, I'm just here. Anyway, why not hire an architect? Well, let's think about that. Let's look at some common trends regarding money on the design side versus what follows on the construction side. So I've looked at this and wondered about this and paid close attention to this to make sure I wasn't making this up to be on behalf of my own self-interest and saying, design services are expenses really are worth it. What have I found over the years? What I've found, and this is very rough and raw and broad stroke, is that design services and related efforts, observations during construction, etc., just generally speaking, order of magnitude now, right? Rough order of magnitude, relate to about construction costs of about 10% of those. So, like, by paying somebody $100, you are likely to be getting insurance, basically, to thereby have a high degree of likelihood, if they're competent, and like we said, this is all based on presumed basic competence from the architect, or part of the screening process, right, to make sure that's true, getting the right one, of $1,000, $100 to save $1,000, or for example, $100 to gain $1,000 in value, resale value, intangible quality of space, something like that. 1 to 10. Why wouldn't one make such an investment in something as important as a space that you spend so much of your time in, or that you're relying on to make money, etc.?
Key life.